joined here today by Greg McClarty, CEO and founder of Two Hands. We're working with Greg and the team on a wholesale raise, helping them raise the funds required to help fuel their growth as they move into 2022, where they're hopefully looking to undertake an IPO. So welcome, Greg.
Great. Thanks, Nick. Thanks so much for taking on Two Hands. Really appreciate that.
Well, so, Greg, we'll kick off with the first question in this discussion. I suppose if you can give us the elevator pitch. Who is Two Hands and what is it that you do?
Sure. The idea behind Two Hands came from a desperate call for help I received from fisher leaders in the Southern Rock lobster industry who were desperately concerned about the future of their industry. We realized that no one was fighting on their behalf, and so we decided to take up that fight. So Two Hands is a digital marketplace directly connecting farmers and fishers with high-end restaurants. With direct connection, we've been able to reinvent the supply chain, eliminate middlemen, which is, we've found it's taken over 20% of the costs out of the supply chain. We're using blockchain to authenticate the source of product and to improve the ethics of the supply chain. So imagine a world where chefs and consumers know the stories about producers and chefs and have blockchain verified information on supply chain ethics and the sustainability, carbon footprint, and quality of the food that they consume. With this data, there will be significant impact for the better. That's what we're about.
So, Greg, can you tell us about what is the market issue you've identified, the market gap that you're seeing out there?
Okay. Globally, proteins through high-end restaurants amounts to $130 billion US dollars globally. But our aim is bigger than that. We have a solution to fix global food supply chains, providing the information all consumers must have for the food entering their body.
Greg, tell us about the problem that you're actually trying to solve here then.
Yeah, food fraud costs the global economy in US dollars $40 billion annually. Inefficient supply chains cost the global economy $60 billion annually. 30% of global food is wasted. And to chefs and consumers, fishers and farmers are faceless, their regions are invisible, and supply chain is a black box, clearly indicating that global food supply chains are broken.
They're fascinating. And so where, what markets do you see yourselves focusing on?
Well, we see ourselves, in fact, we see parallels to Beyond Meat, Nick, where Beyond Meat started in the US supplying high-end restaurants. And look at them today, they're global and they've transitioned into fast food restaurants and grocery. So right now, we're focused on high-end restaurants in Australia and China, and the UK has asked us to enter the UK market. And so once we had the credibility and knowledge build up through high-end restaurants, then we see ourselves having global application through all food outlets.
Yeah, fascinating, definitely a large market all around the world. How is it that you guys actually solve the problem that you see, and what's your I suppose point of difference out there right now?
Yeah, sure. So it helps if I explain how it works, Nick. So we provide a tamper evident smart tag to every farmer and fisher that comes on board with us. And take a lobster example. So we provide the smart tag to the lobster fisher. He attaches that smart tag to the lobster, so it can't be removed. When he comes to port, we electronically weigh it, and so we know the fisher, the region, we have the weight and the pricing. This information is uploaded to our marketplace from which restaurants can order. So we pack a big part of our difference is that we provide that order directly to the producer, so they pack at that location for the restaurant, so that when it comes to, say, the Melbourne market, it's cross-docked in Melbourne and goes directly to the restaurant. So we're avoiding wholesalers, distributors, and the fish markets, and we're saving over 20% in supply chain costs as a result. But not only that, Nick, but with that QR code, the smart tag that's applied to all the proteins and food coming through our marketplace, when it arrives in the restaurant, chefs and consumers can scan that QR code, They get a video of, we film every fisher and farmer so they can speak directly to chefs and end consumers. They can see these short videos, they get a video of the chef, and they get information on sustainability, and they get a blockchain dashboard proving the authenticity of the product and the ethics of the supply chain.
Yeah, interesting. Obviously, food provenance, a lot of these top-end restaurants is really key. Is that what you're seeing resonating with clients?
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why we have virtually 100% stickiness with both producers and restaurants. I must say, Nick, that the feedback we're getting from both producers and restaurants in Australia and China and now the UK is really inspiring.
Yeah, great. And so, what sort of traction have you got so far with the business?
We 2 months ago we passed over 1 million annualized gross merchandise volume, and we're getting incredibly exciting market traction. For all the producers and chefs who join our marketplace, we have virtually 100% stickiness. So when people start with us, they just don't leave. Yeah, Nick, the traction is so exciting. And there's two elements to it. The first one is in Australia, we started with just over 15 high-end hatted, or every restaurant was hatted, and some of them are world famous. These chefs are really well connected and recognized. So when they're endorsing Two Hands, the word gets out. And now the Sydney and Melbourne markets have reopened. We are now getting inquiries from all over Australia to open up Two Hands with restaurants and producers in Adelaide and South Australia, in Sydney and in Brisbane. It's exceptionally exciting. The opportunities are coming to us right now. And then secondly, with international hotels, we're with iconic international hotels, the Marriott Group, the Hilton Group, the Intercontinental Group, and the Great Eagle Group. And our little startup has had discussions at group level with these hotel groups. They tell us the two big issues they have are financial fraud and food fraud, and Two Hands solves both of these issues. So, for example, the Marriott Group purchases over $3 billion US in just China alone in proteins. So the Marriott Group is talking about making Two Hands compulsory for throughout their hotel group. And so can you imagine the foundation that will give us as we expand? And so we're having very exciting traction and discussions.
Exciting times ahead. And so what other markets, what other regions are you seeing a lot of interest from the restaurant side and also from the producers?
So the Scottish government, while here in Shanghai, I met the Trade Commissioner for the UK. They've had serious issues with Brexit. So to cut a long story short, the Scottish government is offering Two Hands $3.5 million Australian in equity financing to expand into Scotland and the UK, with basing our operations in Scotland for total UK penetration. And so I thought they would be really excited about the export opportunities with providing for Australia and China. But they want us to really focus on the direct connection with UK restaurants. And so it's a very exciting opportunity.
Yeah, sure. And what about that's the sort of the restaurant and consumer side? What about the product side, the producer side? How are you building that database as well? That group.
So where we're finding traction is actually, so we start off, we find the producer who's like the lead. We infiltrate an industry and we get to know the industry really well. We get to know who the passionate, really high quality producers are. And because they're so passionate about food, they love what we're doing and they come on board with us, and having them come on board then gives us the credibility. And they introduce us to the high-end producers as well. And then that has also led us towards an interesting dynamic where there's farmer and seafood cooperatives, and the cooperatives are all about doing the best by the farmers in the co-op. And so we're getting co-ops really interested in what we're doing. And then finally, Nick, some of these best chefs, they deal with the best producers globally. and they're introducing us to the producers and bringing the producers on board. So that gives us a lot of credibility with these high-end producers. And so we're getting a really nice network effect going on with producers.
Yeah, great. And have you got some good case studies that you like to talk about in terms of restaurants and producers and the connections you've made there and the successes you've seen going through?
Yeah, if we take Atacama in Australia, which is world famous, Atacama, we approached them as one of our early customers, and they said finally they're able to provide proof of provenance for the product that's coming through the restaurant, and provide their clientele with the proof through blockchain authentication with what Two Hands is doing. And also, because we're cutting out the middlemen and the fish markets, the product is so much fresher when it comes to the restaurant, and the chefs are seeing this. Then here in China, the Waldorf Astoria was one of our very first customers. That's the most luxurious brand within the Hilton Group, and really interesting dynamic with what we're doing there, because every smart tag that's attached to the product, Nick, is unique and customized. So we could trace the product back to an individual farmer. Waldorf Astoria just loved the meat they were receiving from the Hunter Valley region of New South Wales. And so they said, hey, is there any chance that we can have a long-term agreement with this farmer? And so we actually, for the first time within the Hilton Group, there was a 12-month agreement between a hotel and a farmer. And that farmer has been able to receive premium pricing because the hotel just loved the quality so much. And of course, we were able to eliminate the middleman. And so now we're having discussions with the Hilton Group about how amazing it would be if across a group we could have agreements with a number of farmers, where instead of the market not knowing how to satisfy demand, where demand is known months ahead of time, then we can organize through the supply chain to eliminate deficiencies through the supply chain, eliminate food waste, and make the operations for farmers and logistics so much more efficient.
So Greg, touching on blockchain, obviously Two Hands is using blockchain as the backbone to your platform. Why have you decided to use blockchain, and what benefits are you seeing from that?
Yeah, that's a really important question, Nick, because coding blockchain is really not that much more difficult than coding other forms of software. And others have seen the critical importance of that blockchain will have in our future with food supply chains. But they haven't gone the really hard yards to ensure that blockchain is implemented with integrity, where there's absolutely no gaps from the producer to the restaurant, and everyone fully buys into recording up to the blockchain. But blockchain is so much more than track and trace. Blockchain technology has the potential to democratize food supply chain power and to make sustainable and ethical actors out of all participants. And this is the mega opportunity that Two Hands delivers.
Yeah, fascinating. Look, Greg, the other item I want to touch on today was also around your revenue model. How does that work? How do you get paid? Who pays you? So it'd be good to sort of get a bit of an idea of that.
So as I mentioned, with connecting the two ends of the supply chain, Nick, we've reinvented the supply chain and eliminated a number of middlemen, like the fish markets and the wholesalers and distributors. And so we save between 20 and 30%, and at times it's more than 30% in supply chain savings. So we know the farm gate price, we know the restaurant price, and we know the supply chain costs. And so we're then able to allocate the 20 to 30% in supply chain savings to paying ourselves between 5 and 10% commission off every transaction. And we're able to allocate the balance of the savings to providing better prices to farmers and better prices to the restaurants. And that really gets that flywheel going, where with better pricing, better recognition, and eliminating pain points for producers and restaurants, we can really get that flywheel spinning.
Thanks for that. What I'd love to hear from you is, what is it that excites you most about the opportunity? What is it that gets you out of bed every day, and what do you think it is that should really excite investors about Two Hands?
Oh, there's two things, Nick. One is that we started our journey fighting on behalf of fishers and farmers, and it's then extended to chefs. So the feedback we're getting from farmers, from fishers, and from chefs is so inspiring. It's so inspiring. And then with focusing on eliminating the pain points for these really important people, we've found we have a solution that can fix global supply chains. So here's an Australian startup that can truly have a global impact. And my word, that's inspiring to our team.
So Greg, you've mentioned you're on a pathway to IPO. You're looking to IPO in 2022. How do you see the pathway towards that IPO and beyond?
Yeah, ideally, we'd like to appoint a broker in about a month's time to take us help us strategize to IPO and take us on that path to IPO. We're getting fabulous traction right now. As I said, 2 months ago, we passed 1 million gross merchandise volume for the first time. And already we have agreements in place with marketplace participants to grow almost in a very short term past 40 million. So we're getting phenomenal growth right now. We see that growth continuing as we continue to expand in Australia, China, and we certainly intend to enter the UK market in 2022, and then IPO on the back of the expansion in those three markets with a substantial premium to where we are right now.
Okay, great. So, Greg, concluding messages. What would you like to, if you could leave the investors with one comment, one thought, what would that be?
From what we're seeing, Two Hands is an idea whose time has come. Come with us on this really exciting journey.
Great. Thank you, Greg. Great to chat to you, and we look forward to working with you on this raising and hopefully all the way through to IPO next year.
Yeah, can't wait for it, Nick.